I just think, you know, over time it proved to just not be the best user experience. It doesn't make you want to keep coming back to it. Think of it in the neurostimulation category. It's really the best one that we've seen so far. Hey everybody, welcome to Techforpsych. It's Dr. Cody Rall here, your medical doctor confidant. I don't know about you, but I feel like there is an explosion of neuro wearables going on right now. So how do you decide which one might actually be right for you and your specific needs and purposes? Well, fear no longer. Me and my spirit moose here in our new studio, we're gonna take a look at some different devices. We're gonna take a look at a very specific niche, the neurostimulation wearables. We've got a couple of them here today. We've got the new kid on the block, the NeoRhythm, a device that I'm really excited about. We've got the Thync, which has been around for a little while, and really interesting comparison to the NeoRhythm, as well as to the classic athletic enhancer, the Halo Sport 2. These are all neurostimulation devices. So we're gonna take a look at three different factors in order to understand the context of where they're coming from, to include how they work, how they're set up, and what niche they're actually focused on. And then we're gonna take a look at 7 different factors to help you by the end decide which one you might actually purchase. So us humans, we're always trying to change our brains in a certain way in order to control how we feel or how we operate in the world. The most obvious example is popping a pill, having that chemical go into your stomach and have that absorb in your bloodstream and then go across into the blood-brain barrier and have an effect on your brain, something like caffeine or drugs of abuse, alcohol, that type of thing. And I think the holy grail for these types of neurostimulation devices is to have a positive impact on the brain without side effects that you would actually get from medications. That seems to be one of the main problems with actually popping a pill and having a chemical interact with your brain in order to change things like attention, to improve your mood, to lessen anxiety, all these things that would be ideal for our top performance. And when you take a look at how we might actually achieve this, it's pretty interesting. You can do different things. You can maybe apply direct electrical stimulation in various voltages, or you might have magnetic field interact with the brain in various strengths, or you might try things like focused ultrasound, which actually might become an option in the coming years. But for now, most of the neuro wearables that we see on the market have tried one of two things. They've tried direct electrical stimulation to different areas of the scalp to try to influence the brain, or they're using magnetic fields in order to induce resonance patterns or firing patterns within the brain that might be favorable. So we know that the brain fires at different frequencies, and if you can change the global firing frequency, it actually will change your subjective state. Generally, if you increase the firing rate, maybe you'll increase attention, but you might actually get anxiety from that. Or if you decrease the firing rate, it might allow you to relax, but also might create more of a depressive picture. So we're always tinkering around, we're always experimenting with these different modalities in order to figure out what is the best way that we can do. And so let's take a look at the context here. We've got a direct electrical stimulation device, the Thync here, that actually uses a sticky pad in order to stimulate through direct electrical stimulation your trigeminal nerve. With the Halo Sport, it's a little bit different. The Halo Sport uses these direct electrical nibs that go over your motor cortex, and in doing so, the stimulation hyperactivates the motor cortex. It actually creates neuroplasticity so that later on in your exercise, you can actually induce more physical change in the brain, but also in the neural connections with your body. What's really interesting about the NeoRhythm is it uses millitesla magnetic stimulation to influence the magnetic signature of the axons within the brain in order to induce different firing patterns. And as you'll see, it has a wide variability of firing patterns that actually allow it to stimulate the brain in a different way. So you've got mechanism of action, we've got direct electrical stimulation versus magnetic influence. We've got area of stimulation, we've got Thync affecting the trigeminal nerve, Halo Sport going more for the motor cortex, and NeoRhythm affecting different areas of the brain depending on the positioning, mostly the frontal lobe and the occipital lobe, to induce resonance firing patterns. And then we've got the actual niche that they're targeting, whereas Thync is targeting people that are looking to be stimulated or relaxed. Halo Sport is focused on athletic performance, and NeoRhythm is, like the Thync, focused on being able to get better attention as well as relaxation settings, but has actually added different modalities in order to enhance meditation as well. So it seems to have more of a wide variance of actual uses. All right, so let's parse out some of these details between the devices to figure out which one will be best for you. Now, first, the coolness factor. Maybe not the most important factor on the list, but something that we might as well start out with. How cool does the device look? Are you gonna enjoy wearing it? I mean, it actually depends on if you want to be seen with it on, or if you want to take pictures with it on. You know, me being on YouTube, I'm aware of these things, and they're actually going to affect sales, because if you look on the internet and you see something that's cool, you're going to want to buy it. So I would say number one, actually the winner on the coolness factor would be Thync for me. I mean, such a space age looking device. They did such a great design with the little slit light that turns on and then it sits on your forehead and it's stimulating you or relaxing you. It just looks so neat. I really feel like Thync was number one on that list. I'd say number two on that list would be the Halo Sport. Although it is difficult to tell if they're just more than a regular pair of headphones. They got the color scheme really cool, and obviously the nibs are neat, the detachable nibs that are stimulating you, and it just looks like a cool pair of headphones. And then NeoRhythm, it's fine. It looks high tech. There's not a whole lot of defining features outside of looking like one of these other neurostimulation devices, the other EEG devices, although this is not an EEG device. I remind you, this is actually a TMS device, but kind of simplistic, and that's fine. I'm just really rating these on different scales. So I'd say in coolness factor, Thync is the most unique, eye-catching thing. Halo Sport 2, a little bit less eye-catching, and then NeoRhythm. Obviously, if this had come out 10 years ago, you would have been like, whoa, what the heck is that? But there's so many neuroscience devices that go on your head that it'd be hard to attract attention. You really have to actually describe what's unique about the NeoRhythm to get people excited beyond having seen a couple of the EEG devices or other neurostimulation devices before. So you kind of have to explain it to them to actually generate the excitement. Getting into comfort, what is the most comfortable device? And I'd have to say the Halo Sport fits so well. These nibs are really soft. It just hugs your head like so, and it just feels very secure. I always enjoyed how the Halo Sport 2 actually fit on my head. So comfortable, and taking a look at how uncomfortable perhaps a pair of headphones could potentially be. Halo Sport, especially with nibs coming out the top of it and injected, going into your scalp to be able to stimulate through direct electrical stimulation. I think they did a wonderful job of comfortability, and obviously that would have to have been a big selling point for the device, because athletes are using it, moving it through the environment as they're, doing exercises and etc. And I'd say that the NeoRhythm comes in second place on comfortability. It's so simple and lightweight. You can just wear it anywhere on your head, and it really doesn't bother you at all. My only criticism is lack of adjustability. You can put different size pads in there to make it more tight on your head, which I think is the best thing that they could have done. But because it is a bit of a inflexible device, sometimes you find it sliding off your head a little bit. But again, you just have to put the extra padding in there to get a little bit more tight. And the least comfortable device is definitely Thync. You have to attach it to these sticky pads, and you have to stick the sticky pad on your scalp. And there's just this feeling of maybe not that much residue, but unless it's the stickiest pad there is, and they do wear off with time. They do age. The Thync I had actually take out of storage, and these pads are losing their adhesive nature to them. And then also when the device is revving up, you feel a little bit of, man, you got to be careful, because if you set really high settings, it actually burns your skin just slightly, and it's somewhat uncomfortable. Your skin actually has to get used to the stimulation, the direct electrical stimulation. So you actually have to be a little bit careful. And to be completely honest, it gives me a little bit of a headache sometimes when it's revving up right over your eye, and it just feels like a little bit of burning pressure, and it's not enough to keep you from actually trying the device and enjoying it. But I will admit, trying to use it on a regular basis, you know, getting out the sticky pads, putting it on there, feeling the kind of like somewhat burning sensation as it revs up, and maybe a little bit of pressure on your temple, you know, I'm beginning to realize, as cool as these devices are, you really have to introduce simplicity into the whole experience so that people actually use it every day. So the simplicity is such an important aspect of all this, that as you know, these devices gain maturity and get more widespread outside of the realm of just regular bio and neurohackers, that's going to become increasingly important. Just the ability just to throw it on, have no discomfort, and have it so easy to use that you just use it every day. And that gets back to our third factor, convenience. The definite winner of convenience is NeoRhythm. I mean, you set it up with the app, you give it a little tap, it starts revving up, it's got the magnetic stimulation, and then you just throw it on. It's so easy. You just put it on your head, and there's no burning sensation. There's no, you know, sticky pads that you have to put on your skin. It just goes, which is really awesome. And for me, it's really translated into using it on a very regular basis. You know, oh, I'm feeling a little bit tired. Maybe I should try the NeoRhythm to stimulate my my brain so that I'm more awake. Or I'm feeling a little bit anxious before bed today, maybe because I was out late the previous night. And, you know, I just need to calm down. So I'm going to set it on the sleep settings, get a little drowsy so that I am able to go to sleep so much better. So the convenience factor of the NeoRhythm is really off the charts. So that's why it definitely gets #1 on the convenience side. #2 would be the Halo Sport. Yes, it is easy just to throw on, but you have to wet those nibs before you do that. And for me, it's a little bit difficult to remember to do every time I'm going to exercise. You really have to build up the habit of saying, you know, I'd like to go exercise in about 30 minutes, but I kind of have to stop what I'm doing now in order to go wet the nibs so that I can throw this on and stimulate the motor cortex for about half an hour before I do my exercise. So a little bit more inconvenient than the NeoRhythm there. And definitely the most inconvenient device is the Thync, because you have to get out the strips, you have to lock it into the strip, you have to place it correctly, you have to make sure it's on there just right, and you know, get it revved up. So definitely last place is the Thync on the convenience factor. #4 is the obviousness of effect. And really what I'm talking about here is when you throw the device on and start using it, how obvious is it that it's actually affecting your brain? How obvious is your experience changed within a couple of seconds and or a minute of using it? So #1 on this is actually the Thync. Because you throw the Thync on and you rev it up, you hear the device kind of whir up, and you feel a little bit of heat and a little bit of stimulation, and you realize, hey, it actually is affecting my nerves. You know, it's got a very immediate effect. It doesn't mean that that's the best thing for you, but in people that are suspicious of these devices or need a little bit more convincing, the Thync is very convincing because it revs up and you can hear it and you get the direct thermal effect, and then you feel it waking you up a little bit or calming you down a little bit. So #1 in obviousness of effectiveness. #2 on obviousness of effectiveness would be the NeoRhythm, because you throw this thing on and you're like, is it working? But what's so cool about, and what was so brilliant about what they actually did with the packaging, is they included this little magnet within a test tube. And this thing actually was so brilliant because what you can do is physically put it on the device itself and hear the click, 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 click. What that is you can hear the magnetic wave actually bouncing off the little magnet in this test tube so that you know it's on. It's such a great, convincing thing for the skeptics out there to be able to understand that this thing really is emitting little magnetic frequencies. And it takes a minute or two, but the effects really do wash over you. You feel more alert, or you feel more relaxed, and you're like, wow. You know, I've been using this thing for the last 15 minutes or so, and suddenly you realize that what it had been saying that it's going to do, it is doing. It's not an immediate effect because the magnetic waves are in a sense invisible unless you use the magnetic test tube, but they are there. Number 3, obviousness of effectiveness, I would say Halo Sport 2. And this is because of the kind of nature of this device. You do feel a little bit of electrical stimulation through the nibs, not much. You know, that effect wears off as it revs up. But to get to true outcome of your physical performance, you really have to use it for a month or two consistently in order to notice that it actually is improving your athletic performance. And then that's laid into, like, are you exercising more when you're using it? Have you actually graphed out your results? Are you keeping track of your running times or your maximum lift? All those kind of things. So you really have to be a dedicated biohacker scientist type in the niche to actually see the effects of this over the long term. So maybe the effects are not as obvious because simply it takes longer for the effects to take over. Versatility. NeoRhythm wins this one because the NeoRhythm has a lot of different settings. If you didn't see on my previous videos, you can set it here for attention and it stimulates the frontal lobe. You can set it back here and get relaxation, or you can set it in various other arrangements and or choosings of frequencies in order to get different effects. So it's very versatile. I would say the Thync is second on that list. You know, it's got 2 different settings for awake and calm, and then third on that is Halo Sport, and honestly that's because it's really just focused on athletic performance. They were talking about actually making a device. When I talked to the CEO last spring, they were talking about looking into stimulation for meditation, maybe doing the frontal lobe. So instead of the motor cortex here, which is across the top of your head and on the sides, it could have been stimulating more on the frontal lobe to achieve something that is talked about in meditation circles a lot as hypofrontality. But, you know, the company hasn't gone in that direction, and it doesn't look like they're going to. So low on versatility for the Halo Sport 2. And then I wanted to talk about the user experience of actual effectiveness. So what I talked about before was like the obvious effect of the device to convince the skeptics and get a habit pattern broken into. But this is more about the actual outcome. What happens when you are good about using it often, the device often, and what are the overall effects over time? And I'd have to say, number 1, still NeoRhythm. Just because me and so many other people that have been commenting online are so impressed by the overall effect of this device that if you use it, it really will convince you that it's working, and the utility just comes up. You know, you just start thinking like, well, I have a choice of getting a cup of coffee or throwing on the NeoRhythm, especially if it's just sitting there on your desk. It's like, why not? Just throw it on. And then 30 minutes later, you're alert and focused on your stuff. And or you're trying to like fall asleep and you're having a little bit of trouble that night, and you're like, man, you know what? I've got that NeoRhythm. Why am I not using it? And actually, you know, turn to using it. And number 2, I would say, is the Halo Sport 2. A lot of people really complimented on this device's ability to actually improve athletic performance. It's really been proved over time to be able to do that. So many top-level athletes speaking its accolades over the years. It just takes really a lot of commitment, and that's hard for a lot of people to do. So some limitations there. And number 3, the Thync. Although it was a great idea and it looks cool and it does work, like the immediate effects, the hurdle of getting over putting on the sticky pads, getting the sticky pads on you, getting past the burning sensation so that it actually has an effect, and you're kind of alert, but it gives you a little bit of a headache and, you know, gets you a little revved up rather than like just the very smooth uptick of energy that comes from the NeoRhythm. You get kind of like this strung out, alert feeling from the direct electrical stimulation of the Thync. I just think, you know, over time it proved to just not be the best user experience. It doesn't make you want to keep coming back to it like the Halo Sport 2 or the NeoRhythm do. So Thync got the lowest score on that one. And then price, let's take a look at this. So upfront, Thync was $250. Upfront, NeoRhythm was $300 about, and Halo Sport 2 was about $400. So upfront costs look a certain way, but then you realize that with Thync, you actually have to buy the sticky strips in order to continue to use it. And they actually had a subscription base, which cost more money over time. So overall, in terms of price, NeoRhythm actually won with Halo Sport behind it and Thync coming in last because the needing of buying new strips over time, which would add up over time to be the most expensive device. So in strict price, NeoRhythm wins again. So overall, in the neuroscience stimulation device category, we've got NeoRhythm coming out on top. Its unique mechanism of low amplitude magnetic stimulation is sleek. It comes on effortlessly. It has an effect that keeps you coming back to it. It doesn't have side effects like the direct electrical stimulation. It doesn't have the hurdles like having to set up by either getting sticky pads or wetting nibs like on the Halo Sport. It just is so easy to throw on, so comfortable, so lightweight, and so intuitive with a lot of versatility that you can use for attention, relaxation, or using with meditation. To me, it's the most interesting device, neurostimulation wearable device that we've had come out thus far. And I love it because of the versatility. It just keeps me coming back for more. There's so many things I want to investigate it, and it works. I mean, if I want to try to wind down to get to sleep, I'm thinking, why don't I use that NeoRhythm? If I want to wake up while at my desk, but I feel like I've had too much caffeine for the day, I'll use the NeoRhythm. So I can't say enough about the NeoRhythm. I think that in the neurostimulation category, it's really the best one that we've seen so far. Highly recommend it. And, you know, we'll do other comparisons like this. I hope you enjoyed it. So come back. We're going to have more videos like this, more tech reviews, and also diving into other ancient techniques that you can use with them. It's Dr. Cody Rall with Techforpsych. Thanks so much. Talk to you next time.